Hashtag Voxopolis and walk away.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know if you want to put.
Hey everybody, how you doing? We are back. Do I really? I can't find it. Oh well, it's not a big deal.
No.
I don't even.
Cool.
I don't. Oh, I do see it. Okay. It's funny that we. All right. Anyway. Hey everybody, how you doing? It's you're back here with me once again. There we go. Let me just make sure here. Sorry guys. This is not a professional operation we got going here. But
we're getting there.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. So yeah, everybody, thank you for coming. You know, anybody who's been showing up here every Saturday knows that we just get together here every Saturday night. We talk about the just stupidity or in the media lies that we've had to deal with throughout the week, and the you know, I typically do it with some people, some friends of mine from YouTube, and that typically is Robert Noir and SJG Perspective. So I want to thank them for being here once again to help me get through one of these, because you know it's kind of hard to just talk by yourself for an hour. So and hey, I see a lot of familiar faces out there. You guys coming back. Gator, thanks man for being moderator again. We got Internet God. We got, let's see who else we got here. Gonzalez. We got Jesse Loon, Bill Berry. If you guys you know, want to do some super chats, we will be reading those out. I can accept super chats now, thanks to the fact that I am remonetized, as some of you know. Uploaded my video yesterday. You know, published it. Went to, you know, read comments and respond to comments, and I noticed that my shirts are all showing there right above the comments. I was like, what the hell? So I never expected it to happen, but it did. And thanks to, I mean, all my videos are demonetized anyway, but at least, you know, I have super chats and that stuff, so that's cool. And oh yeah, go ahead. I was gonna say, I'm not seeing the super chats in the chat. What do you mean? Is that up yet? Well, I don't know, maybe I don't have something set up right. I'm not seeing a super chat option. Really? Of the, yeah. Oh, what the heck? Is that something you have to? It seems like other people are saying that. How do you? Is that something you have to add, guys? Does anybody know? Is that something I have to enable? I don't know. All right. Well, I'll figure that out as we're going here. Okay. But yeah, right away we wanted to talk about Frederica. If anybody saw anything. She, the fucking crazy rodeo clown woman. The Wicked Witch of the West. Yeah. So she got up yesterday, or no, it was a few days ago now, and basically just said that she wants to prosecute people who make fun of Democrats, basically, in Congress. And I'll show you here a little bit of that. DK says you have to re-enable your super chats. Just those FYI. People who are online.
making fun of members of Congress are a disgrace. And there's no need for anyone to think that is unacceptable. We're going to shut them down and work with whoever it is to shut them down, and they should be prosecuted.
She sounds so much like the Wicked Witch of the West. I can't get over it.
Members of Congress.
You cannot intimidate members of Congress. I mean, I don't think anybody who's intimidating. What's she even talking about? And this is, this is what I've talked about there's this push to, they want to criminalize their opposition. They want to otherize it, stigmatize it, and criminalize it, I think, ultimately.
Imagine the outrage of the mainstream media if Donald Trump comes out in one of his, press conferences and he's like, by the way, I'm tired of everyone making fun of me on Twitter, so we're going to start criminalizing people that mock me. They would be like, this guy's some kind of dictator. But when it comes from a Democrat, it's like, well, that's a reasonable opinion. It could hurt her feelings, people making fun of her.
What is she even talking about? Who did this to her to trigger this? I mean, what?
Yeah, I don't know.
So I think I know. This was in result of them supposedly touring this immigration facility, this detention facility. And the news story broke that supposedly there was, I don't know if it was a Discord chat or something, where a bunch of ICE members were on it. And they were doing two things. They were kind of making fun of the situation and the detention facilities, but they were also picking on AOC and Ilhan Omar and other Democrats. So she's saying, that's why she said, it should be illegal for them to make fun of us. That was their argument.
It should be illegal to have that bad of grammar when you're speaking to people. Because, I mean, she is there's not the sharpest dart in the board. And this is not a racial thing, man. I don't care what color she is. Did I just make it a racial thing unintentionally? I didn't mean to. But seriously, she is dumb. She is dumber than rocks. She's a congressperson? How the hell did she get elected?
I know. Did she get
away?
Well, that was when I ran for Congress, which hopefully I'll be doing in the future at some point. But it's intimidating. You're like, I'm going to walk in with all these very intelligent people. And then you watch someone like Sheila Jackson Lee, or we could cite Republicans too. There's been some non-intelligent Republicans as well. Sure. You see people like that and you're like, oh yeah, I can handle this. No problem.
No, she's like pretty not that smart. She's kind of, box of rocks comes to mind is all I'm saying.
It's so simple to make fun of her for what she said. The danger should be obvious. I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat. The thing that makes this country one of the greatest, or the greatest country in the world, was the idea that you're allowed to have individualism, you're allowed to have liberty, you're allowed to criticize who you want. Satire against politicians has a huge, long-standing tradition in this country, directed at people from all sides of the political aisle. So that's easy to mock. Everyone should get that. But what's even more, I did a video on this. To me, knowing the situation that this was about ICE, people in ICE that were saying this, and the Democrats having such a big problem with that. Remember, these are the same people that told you when Peter Strzok and Lisa Page were saying they could smell Trump supporters in Walmart and that they needed an insurance policy against Trump. They said, no, that's just words. That's not important. And keep in mind, the difference was Strzok and Page were actually investigating Hillary and Trump. What are these ICE agents doing to, this lady or any of the other Democrats? Nothing. They're just Joe Schmo workers that happen to be called Nazis every day by the Democratic Party. I'm sure if my boss called me a Nazi every day, I'd probably have some bad things to say about them over the water as well,
Yeah, no, Frederica Wilson, the official congressional race pimp and rodeo clown.
Dude, what is that hat? What the hell? It's giant. Do you guys remember? It's one of the scary movies where they're spoofing signs, and the sheriff lady, every time it shows her, she's got a bigger and bigger hat. Yeah, that's what that shit reminds me of.
Yep.
I wanted to pull up the one here. I'm gonna find it with they had her up against Macho Randy Savage.
Yeah,
it's hilarious. I gotta find it anyways.
And guys, if anybody can tell me where that is, I can't find it. I'm in the stream settings. I'm under live chat, but I don't see anything about super chat. So let me know if you know.
Yeah, we'll just make fun of Frederica a little more if you're looking, but
yeah, go for it.
Have you ever noticed too? It's what's the, I can't remember, someone coined the term like cry bully. And it's these people, the idea that the people that are most vitriolic and that shout and scream the most, they're the ones who can't handle anybody insulting them and even the least. So it's hilarious to see the Democrats that want to go out there and every day say, Trump is Hitler. Trump's literally a stooge of Putin. You know, Trump's this terrible person. His kids are all horrible, blah, blah, blah. And then as someone dares to make, you know, in the case of AOC, you know, some little girl has a Twitter account parodying her. No, that's terrible. How dare people mock me? You know,
I know.
It's ridiculous.
Who wore it better? Who wore it better? This is great. Oh, Frederica.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
totally,
sorry.
man. Snap into it.
Oh, you know, look at that. Look in the 10 news there. They even got the rainbow, man. Gays even have the local channel news microphones. That's not fair. They get everything, man. They get a whole month. Everything. But, yeah, no, that's funny.
It's sad, though, because the Macho Man is fantastic. One of the all-time best. And by the way, completely opposite. On one hand, you have someone who doesn't look very athletic and can't use her words that effectively. The Macho Man, one of the best mic people of all time.
Yeah.
I can sit there and watch YouTube videos of just the Macho Man getting pumped before matches. It's one of my all-time favorite things.
Yeah, I could never get into. I'm into the UFC, which I'm going to be watching a little UFC later. But I'm not. I never could get into the you know, big time wrestling, the fake wrestling, and just
the 80s, like I love that era, the 80s 90s era. We do a whole show on it someday. I could do, like, the idea that you have a show that's breaking the fourth wall because it's a show that you know is a show, but still there's like all these real world rivalries, like Bret Hart with Vince McMahon and stuff going on. I don't know, I liked it, but then again, I'm a nerd, so
okay.
Yeah,
you are. We're all nerds. It's okay.
So did you figure out what's going on with the
I did.
There?
I got it. Oh,
got it.
Yeah, it's working. So thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Do you have to do we have to refresh it or anything, or is it?
You might have to refresh. Yeah, you might have to refresh.
Okay, everybody refresh. I'm refreshing now. Let's see what happens. I'm watching an ad. That's cool. Do you get paid for these ads? If I watch this ad, do you get paid for it?
I don't know. That's weird. I'm not playing any ads. It's doing it on its own.
I just refreshed yours and I got an ad. That would seem to think
awesome.
you.
Ads, great.
So yeah, there it is, bro. You are in, man. I skipped the ad. Sorry, bro. It was too long.
Yeah. Hey,
all right,
real quick,
everybody refresh your browser. Just refresh it, and we will have the super chats option.
Super chats.
We're
all drinking a little of the bubbly, so
seriously, just refresh it, okay? Please, thank you.
Yeah, and I did want to show you guys something here. This
Woo!
So I emailed.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good. I emailed
I've never
YouTube.
drank on one of your streams before. I'm sorry. I'm gonna get a little lippy because I get loose.
That's okay. I like that. I encourage that here on this show. But so I tweeted out, just not to go back to this monetization thing, but it's frustrating because they demonetized pretty much everything that I had, right? And
Ned Frankly. Sorry, dude. Go ahead.
Oh, you're good.
He sent you one, so I was.
Oh, really? Oh,
yes.
Thank you, buddy.
Ned Frankly.
Thank you, buddy. Woo! Appreciate it, bud. Really appreciate it. But I'm wondering.
One more second, Ryan, and then you can do this. I promise.
Okay.
Tonight, I just came up with this. Dronetek's not going to be happy about this, but everybody who gets a super chat gets a 30-second song. Gets a 10-second song from me. Okay, just a on-the-fly song. You gotta give me a subject, Ned Frankly. Give me a subject, just a subject. Okay, I want one subject from you, and then I'm going to write a song on the fly for you. Okay, go ahead now. While I tune up my guitar.
So yeah, he's gonna do that. So anyway, I'm wondering if I can review these because you have an option for manually reviewing, and in the past, anytime I manually review, it always gets remonetized. So I'm thinking, can I just do that? And I actually reached out to YouTube creators on Twitter, and this is the ridiculous response that I got from them. So I asked, my channel was just remonetized. However, most all of my videos are flagged as not advertiser friendly. If I ask for manual review, because it's an algorithm marking all these, does that put my channel in any kind of danger? I'm worried doing so might get it demonetized again. This is what they respond to me with. While we can't cover specifics, of course, if you believe that your content follows the advertiser-friendly guidelines, you could request a manual review. Well, notice they didn't answer my question, right? And I responded, officer, you're under arrest. Person, for what? Officer, I can't cover specifics. So it's really dumb, and I think SJG's perspective is ready with a song.
Mopar. Okay. Can you guys hear it okay?
Yep.
Well, I drive a Mopar, and if you got a Mopar, it's Mopar or it's no car. Mopar or no car. I drive a Dodge, you drive a Chrysler. It's Mopar or it's no car. I said, Mopar or no car. Mopar or no car. Mopar, I got a 440 in my Mopar. Okay, that was a terrible song, Ned, but the next one will be better, I promise.
No, actually, I thought that was pretty damn good.
Pull your guitar just a little back from the mic.
Musical? Oh, great. Pull the mic back a little bit? Okay.
Just from the guitar. More vocals, less guitar.
Okay.
That was pretty good.
How about this? Okay, so we got to do Helen Keller now, too. She was the one who couldn't see or hear, right?
Thanks, Silver.
Oh, that's gonna be a bummer. Okay. My name is Helen Keller, and I can't hear. I don't know, but I can't hear. Because I can't see you when you're staring at me. And I can't hear the mean things you're saying about me.
Well.
Oh, Heller. Keller. I don't know if she'll be a funny looking feller, but Helen, oh Helen Keller. I know her name was funny when we spelled her.
Woo!
Okay.
That was amazing.
You're terrible, but it's okay,
Dude,
man. We're the first time on the fly.
Yeah, I could never do that. That's like all the arithmetic and stuff flying at my face. I have no idea what's happening. That's what it would be.
Okay.
And monetization. Gator said, and monetization is gone again. Yeah. Thank you, Silver Paradox, for that super chat, buddy. Appreciate it. So we got to get on to something political here. I know we were talking. Oh, Internet God, that song, please. There you go. Take it care of. Take it care of. Thank you, Internet God. Appreciate it, buddy. But so
I can transition if you want. If this is something you guys
that would be great.
The idea of
please transition.
You can't criticize your political leaders. Look at what's happening in the UK right now with Tommy Robinson. It's kind of more of the same. I think the situation with Tommy Robinson, the reason he's being charged is because he's made the UK government look foolish, and law enforcement in particular, because, you know, we're now finding out for 30 plus years they allowed Muslim rape gangs to kind of run amok to the tunes of thousands upon thousands of young girls being raped. Tommy called it out, and now he's being held in contempt of court. This is the next stage. Once you say you can't criticize the government, well, this is the next stage. Right now we know that Tommy, and when they throw him in prison, as they have in the past, they always put him in special sections where they know he's going to be with, like, kind of these Muslim gangs, and his life's going to be in jeopardy. So yeah. That's where you're going. That's why it's important to defend free speech right now, because once you slip just a little, you're only a stone's throw away from something like that.
Right, and I don't want to get off of Tommy Robinson. I want to talk about that just a little bit. But did anybody catch these? Speaking of free speech, these Antifa protests against the Proud Gavin McInnes? He had a free speech rally with Milo and all those guys. And did anybody see that today?
I didn't. No,
I did. I watched. I was watching them for a little bit, but I didn't. Was there bad riots going on?
I don't think it ever got to that point, but Daily Caller was walking around interviewing people on the Antifa side, and it's just these people. It freaks me out. I mean, these people are completely delusional. Like they literally think that we're all Nazis, and you know, the guy wasn't really being combative with him, but he was asking him, you know, do you believe in free speech? Oh, well, yeah, but, you know, if we give them too much free speech, they're going to be, you know, executing people, and it's going to be genocide next. And I think, and I think that sort of ties into the Tommy Robinson thing, because what they're doing is they're literally just trying to turn us into the worst possible monsters that they can imagine to rationalize taking away basic rights. And and we saw the same thing with the Frederica video, and you're seeing that more and more on the Democrat side. All of so now it's Frederica said that, AOC said that, Omar said that, Tlaib I think has said that. All these extremists, they're gunning for free speech. They're gunning for us.
Yeah, no, they you know what? And I was listening to Avi Yemeni talking about it today on a video. Like, he came back to Israel and was literally just so, like, he did an impromptu video on it. You guys should go check it out if you can. But he's like literally heartbroken because they were pretty confident they were going to win because the charges are so stupid and bogus.
Right.
The facts that Tommy Robinson were reporting on were already out in the media. He was not really releasing any new information. The only question he asked the Rape King was, "How do you feel about your verdict?" He did not in any way, shape, or form jeopardize this verdict or this trial, and yet he is hung out to dry because they hate him so much because of, everyone loves to call him the racist and so on and so forth, because he calls out the thing that nobody calls out, in the UK. Like, we ban guns in the UK. They're banning knives in the UK because knife stabbings are off the effing charts in the UK. But nobody wants to talk about why and who is stabbing, who is the highest, perpetrator of these violent attacks and these rapes and these stabbing. It's the asylum seekers. And like here in America, we have the asylum seekers that are saying that are coming from Mexico and so forth. Over there, they're coming from Muslim countries, and the highest percentage of them are from Muslims and Islam, from Islamists and so on and so forth. Nobody wants to call that out and point that out. Tommy does that, and so they want to silence him, and they effectively want to give him a death sentence. If he goes back to prison and it's an effective death sentence for him.
Well, and here's what gets me. So I would talk about this on places like ATS and online blogs. So Tommy was originally, I wrote about this in May of 2018. He was originally sentenced and put in prison 2 months. Then he appealed. So for those of you who don't know, he was found guilty here the other day on his appeal. Now they're awaiting the sentencing phase. Tommy, in the trial that he was in front of talking about, was basically in the sentencing phase of the accused pedophiles. It was not a jury trial. The excuse is that he was guilty of the 1981 Contempt of Court Act in the UK, and the purpose of that act is so basically you don't influence jurors. But that's nonsense. Right. One, there were no jurors, so who was he influencing? Is the judge that was that was presiding over the pedophile case so weak-minded that some guy with a microphone out front, he's like, geez, I didn't think of that. Maybe I'll find these guys guilty now. Second, Tommy never said they were guilty. He just talked about what they were accused of and said it was alleged. And third, we could see, like, I could pull up videos right now of other times that we've had pedophile cases where tons of mainstream press in the UK showed up, such as the trial of Gary Glitter. They all stood there with screaming questions at him every day as he was walking into court, talking about the charges with him, filming him as he was walking into court. Tommy didn't do any of that. And so why is he being held to a different standard? My point is, I can't believe, and I'll pull it up here in a minute, but you guys can go off on it if you want, but I can't believe, I wrote in May of 2018 that as I was talking about this on Above Top Secret, every single person that was cheering for Tommy Robinson as, yay, he's a racist, I'm glad he ended up in jail, they all broke the exact same law Tommy Robinson did. Right. Because the Contempt of Court Act says, I'll just read a little bit of it, it says, in this act, the strict liability rule means the rule of law whereby conduct may be treated as a contempt of court, tending to interfere with the course of justice. 1. The strict liability rule applies only in relation to publications, and for this purpose, it includes any speech, writing, or other communication in whatever form which is addressed to the public. So in other words, this was written before Facebook. If you went on Facebook during the Robinson trial and said, yeah, he's a guilty racist, you just broke the same law that Tommy Robinson did. It's just your courts selectively apply the law to go after people they don't like. And I don't know how many times we have to say, be careful when you cheer for laws that are written that make everyone guilty and that say you can't criticize your government, because someday it will be used against you. And I can't believe they don't have the sense to see this.
Right, the foresight should be there. Like, just think of all the movies that we all grew up with that warned us about shit like this. But yeah, and I sound like a damn broken record, but this is what I'm always talking about when I say they rationalize. I don't see the same thing happening on our side in the same way. They seem,
because it's not.
right. It's just not happening in the same way. And it's like this rally today. These people do not like free speech because it hinders them. It holds them back. And Tommy is a threat to this old guard in power that seems to be, we're pushing back against them. I think Tommy. So, do you guys think that if Tommy were to get killed in jail, what would happen? Do you think that people would rise up? Would that be, would he be a martyr?
Yeah, I mean, you would see some of that, but as we see in the United States, the people that are in charge of a lot of these Western or European countries are globalists. And so they will always selectively, it's like Ben Shapiro always says, someone, I don't agree with him all the time, but you see him say all the time, if Democrats mess up, or if Republicans mess up, the story is Republicans screw up. If Democrats mess up, the story is Republicans pounce on Democrats screwing up. It's the same mentality here. If Tommy gets killed in jail, they'll be like, oh, that's unfortunate. No one should die. But then the story will quickly become, look at the racists that are sticking up for Tommy. We didn't do anything wrong. This proves that they were the racist, bloodthirsty maniacs we knew they were all along. And that will be used to crack down. Much as in the situation with Andy Ngo in Portland, Antifa, inevitably what will happen is Portland allows Antifa to attack, and then someone will fight back because they're upset, and that will become the story. Oh, we need to crack down on the evil conservatives. They're the ones that are at fault.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely. That is exactly what will happen. That's what I think. That's what all this is about. They're just pushing, and eventually somebody's gonna push back. I mean, and this is really dangerous minefield territory I'm going to get into here, but the whole thing at Charlottesville, like, that would have never have happened had Antifa and those groups not showed up to start a fight, right? And look look, they're still using that to attack their political opposition. They want incidents like that to use against us. It's like everything that they do is in service of making it tougher for us to win office and get power, and it's disturbing. I'm not sure there's anything we can do about it. I think ultimately it's just going to lead to half this country being disenfranchised and ultimately into a civil war kind of situation. I have no idea what that would look like. And if you guys ever want to talk about that topic, that could be an interesting topic, only because I've watched a bunch of videos just about how that might look, and it might be interesting to get into that. I don't know. Would you guys let me know in chat if you'd like to?
They will Bill Barry said nothing would happen if Tommy got killed in jail. That's why they will kill him, and that's the thing. It'll be news for a week or two, and then probably not even two. It'll be a few days to a week. By the people who follow Tommy will be shocked and appalled by this and push it, and then it'll get swept under the rug. But like, he before lost, I think 40 or 50, maybe 60 pounds when he was in prison.
He looked
yeah, and he had to be held in solitary confinement, because if he was put in any kind of public, general population, he would have been killed. Piss was thrown on him, shit was thrown on him. He couldn't eat the food because all the people making the food were Muslims, cooks in the kitchen. So they were spitting in it, and they were, doing all kinds of nasty crap to his food. So, I mean, the guy, it is literally, I don't know. I mean, the real tragedy is he going to get jail time when he's sentenced, or is it going to be something? I don't know.
I thought it was jail time. I thought he said he's going to jail.
I don't know for sure if it is. I think it's going into sentencing. So there's a possibility maybe that he won't be. I don't know.
He said he's going to appeal.
Just real quick, I pulled this up. This is from, everyone could look it up on their own if they want, but this is from the BBC article that just came out about Tommy being found guilty. This is the last 3 paragraphs. It says, the case was then referred back to Attorney General Jeffrey Cox, who announced in March that it was in the public interest to bring proceedings. Speaking after the latest verdict, again, this is the Attorney General, Mr. Cox said the court's decision reflected the seriousness of posting online material which risked prejudicing legal proceedings. Quote, I would urge everyone to think carefully about whether their social media post could amount to contempt of court. Do you see this? Do you see what the government of the UK is saying?
Yeah.
It isn't saying just Tommy. It's telling all of you, hey, before you shoot your mouth off and say something the UK government doesn't like, just let it be known that what you post on Facebook, what you post on Twitter, you're next.
Yeah.
And I don't know how, even if you hate Tommy, you're not reading that going, holy cow, this is the official position of the UK government.
They're not pulling any punches. They're not playing around. It's like literally they're using Tommy as the example to say, hey, guess what? If you screw around on social media, we'll come for you next. Look what we did to Tommy. You're next if you do this. And what Avi Yemeni was saying today was, he was like, in speaking to people in America, he goes, if you don't think it's going to come to America, if we don't do something about it right now, you're lying to yourself.
Yeah,
you're lying to yourself. Yeah, it's here. It is here.
Look what they're doing to Trump supporters. And so the media and the Democrats both, it's like they're doing the same sort of a tactic to Trump supporters and even people working around Trump. Trump has such a hard time finding people to work with him, in part because the media demonizes people that work with him so heavily. And it's like they're trying to tell people, look, if you work with Trump or you support Trump, this is what you're going to get. And it's a similar tactic. And I'd say it's already here. I mean, we're already dealing with it.
Yeah.
Right, and both Trump and Tommy have this in common. They're both brash, and people that disagree with them are really going to unlike them, right? Because their style, which I get that. But one, I would say it doesn't matter. You should want to protect the speech of even those you dislike, because that's the mark of a good society. You should always say, do I want the powers to be, do I want my enemies to have the same powers that I'm suggesting? So if you're suggesting Tommy get thrown in jail because you think he's a bad guy, well, then remember, what if Tommy was in charge? Maybe he would want you thrown in jail. So, and the other thing is, despite if you like him or not, that's like, you should feel that way. But like, I think we should have a conversation on what is it that people dislike about Tommy? Say what you will about him supposedly being a racist and stuff. He's not. But let's say you do think that. Let's think that you think, hey, he just hates all Muslims and he's a racist. Like, put yourself in his shoes. Grow up in a town, right, that in a span of 30 years, the demographics have changed. You've watched organized crime come into your town based on these demographics, and they are raping thousands upon thousands of little girls in your town. The police do nothing. Like, Tommy's talked about knowing someone whose daughter came up missing, who was 13 years old. She got taken by one of these rape gangs. The gang called the father and put it on audio speaker as they raped her. Now, if you set through that, is your criticism of him really going to be, I think his language is too harsh. I think that he comes off as too brash. Like, I think that they've been remarkably restrained, a lot of these people. Yeah. Does that mean that you could be it's still bad? I haven't heard Tommy say this, but I know there were people in the EDL that were like, we hate all brown people, we hate all Muslims. That's why Tommy distanced himself from that.
Right.
And yes, I know he's made jokes and said other things that were racially insensitive. That's fine if you want to criticize him for that. But think of the stakes. Imagine going to the Jim Crow South, right, and talking to some black man like, you know what, I don't trust any of these white mother effers because, you know, I knew a little black kid that got lynched and dragged through the street behind a pickup. You might say, well, hey, don't blame all white people, but you would understand the anger. You would understand where they were coming from.
Right.
We would never deign to say, well, that person's such an evil scumbag, he should be thrown in jail and murdered in jail.
But here's what I was going to say earlier to what you were saying is that, yeah, in a normal world, in a non-clown world or a non-upside down world, you would want it to be balanced so that when you're not in power, the people that are in power aren't able to silence your speech. But that's not what these postmodernists freaking intersectionality cucks want. What they want is complete and total power and control. It's not about them caring about people. It's not about them caring about minorities. If that's the case, they wouldn't be calling Latinos ignorant scumbags that support Trump. Or if that was the case, Antifa wouldn't be beating up gay Asian journalists or black guys that join Patriot Prayer. It isn't about the minority. It's about control and power, period. Simple, period. End of discussion. That's all it's about. It's all it's about.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And that's why they can't be very consistent either, because they don't, it's like we truly believe that and we live by it, and yet we get painted as like these evil racist monsters, and yet they actively practice these practices that they are against.
Practice.
Right. Right. And but they actively do that. But what they do is they just tell themselves that it's a means to an end that they want to get to. And I noticed when I was in high school that it wasn't about equality anymore. It had shifted to payback, and I think that's where we're at.
I need to go get a beer so I don't lose this buzz. Hang on, I'll be right back.
Well, Orwell famously said, I don't know if I've talked about this on the channel before, but he wrote a book called The Road to Wigan Pier. And I got a lot of this from Jordan Peterson, by the way, but just the Cliff Notes version. He was writing it as a serial, so every week he would put a new chapter out. And he was paid by socialists. These socialist erudites in London were the ones that were paying him. And the first half of the book is just about how terrible these like coal miners had it, these British coal miners. And it's just the most horrendous life. And so the socialists were like, yes, he's showing the plight of the workers. The entire second half of that book is him saying, you know what? I realize hanging out with all these socialists, it's not that they like poor people, it's that they hate the wealthy.
Yes.
And that was his theory. It's they use this as a facade. They pretend that they care for the weak and the poor, but they don't. They hate everyone that has more success than them. Now, that's not everyone. There are truly people that want to help the meek.
Not all.
But a lot of these most vocal voices, the Antifa types, say, that's exactly what's going on there. And you could, speaking of the Proud Boys and Gavin McInnes, go back and watch when Gavin McInnes was with Rebel. He's got a video, it used to be on YouTube, I'm sure it's still there, about Tommy Robinson. And he talks a lot about, a lot of the hatred of Tommy Robinson is a class thing. And he's very funny. He does the accents, but he talks about how like the British accent of the uppity, the high class British person is different than kind of the soccer hooligan accent that Robinson has. And he says there is hatred of those poor white trash people in the UK. They hate them. They think they're all second class. They think they're a bunch of mouth-breathing hooligans. And so that's a lot of what this is. And it's the same here with the deplorables. That's how a lot of people feel. They feel, oh, these toothless, stupid Trump voters, blah, blah, blah. That's why AOC can say, the illegal immigrants are better Americans than the people that vote for Trump. Of course, they despise flyover country. They think that it's people that work with their hands are inferior. People that don't have their highfalutin educations in ivory towers are deplorable. And that's exactly what you're seeing with Tommy.
Yep, I agree. Did you guys see that video, that lady just berating the Latino Trump supporters? Yes. Did you guys see that? Hold on, I want to show that real quick.
Yeah. That's the one I was talking about.
Ignorant. These are voters who are either illiterate, they can't fucking read, they are voting for an asshole like Trump. That's why I'm here.
Isn't it their right to vote who they want to?
And it's my right to tell them they're idiots.
Like, where does it, like, who... I just can't fathom that mindset. Like, I'm going to go and just berate these people. Like, as much as I dislike the left and I think they're idiots, I would never, ever, like, go out to somebody in public and act like that. Like, I would try to engage them and I would be polite, which I've done. I did that Antifa video. You can see that's how I was. There's something, there's a screw loose with these people.
She gives it away, though, because she also says at the end, I'm a socialist, a.k.a. a communist pig. You know what I mean? It's
and she berates the people from Cuba and says that she supports the Cuban government and the dictatorship. Like, what in the world is going on in the mind of somebody like that? And they see themselves as the moral high ground there. It's crazy.
I saw a video in the past where very similar video where someone's screaming about the wonders of socialism, and he's screaming to a gentleman who came from the former Soviet Union, who's explaining, like, here was my experience with socialism.
Jeffrey.
And this, 20-year-old college student that's never been to that area of the world is telling them, you're wrong. You didn't live under the real socialism. Now, I don't mind disagreements. I don't, but, I'll be as polite as the person I'm discussing with. If you're going to be flippant and rude like that, then what kind of worthwhile discussion could you have?
Yeah, well, just about that their whole thing is not about whether or not it's about the Latinos or whether or not it's just about their hate for Trump. Anybody who likes Trump is a piece of garbage in their mind.
Right,
they
a monster.
Can't see past anything else.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say here real quick, you were talking about that guy, that video. I'm pretty sure his name's Jeffrey or something. And I'll find his channel. I highly recommend everybody go check it out because he does tons of videos of just walking around protests, talking to these communists and socialists. He's like, oh, well, I lived it, and you're full of shit. But he's funny and jovial. He's not a dick. But I used to work for an electronics recycling company called Accurate IT, and it's run by a Russian immigrant here. And I talked to him before. And he is not when he first got to America, he was a Democrat, but he's moved away from them now. And he says he told me the reason is because they remind him more and more of what they fled. And he's like, I don't want any part of that. So when somebody who's lived it tells me he sees that in the Democrat Party, I listen and I believe him because I see it too. So
that doesn't necessarily, obviously experience doesn't mean that you can't criticize them or disagree. Clearly, that's the case.
Absolutely,
that. But it's funny because the Democrats are the party that wants to use identity politics. Not all Democrats, but particularly the ones in the videos we're showing, these people that are screaming. And it's very funny. You see it over and over again where they'll be yelling, here's one of my favorite examples. Remember when Obama wanted to renormalize relations with Cuba, which I actually wasn't all that opposed to. The problem was there were a lot of people in Florida that were furious because they fled Cuba. They're Hispanics that fled Cuba. And they were furious because they're like, we hate Castro. He murdered people in my family for political disagreements, things like that. And there was shock in the Democratic Party, like, how dare these Hispanics go against the Democrats and Obama? Don't they know that the Democrats are the party looking out for them? Well, no, it's not that simple. I find it very disturbing how these identity politics people want to assume everyone who looks a certain color must think a certain way. It's not that simple. Cubans have or people that fled from Cuba, those Hispanics have a far different mentality of socialism than maybe a Hispanic that came from Venezuela. Or well, probably not actually, or a Hispanic that came from Colombia or something. And so it's just funny that they out themselves with you see it today with some polls have Hispanic numbers of approval for Trump upwards of 40%. How can that be, they say? Trump's racist. Well, no, it's because those Hispanics also hate illegal immigration because they did it the right way. They hate it more than other people because they're like, are you kidding? It took me 10 years to come here legally. Now these people are flooding the border, in the labor market against me. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, not to go off on a totally separate tangent, and it might actually be interesting as far as conspiracy theories and all that kind of things go. But I mean,
we didn't land on the moon.
Well, yeah, I'd like to get into that with you. I'm kind of surprised by you actually with that. But I'm talking about Yuri, our KGB defector. I talked about him in my last video or 2 videos ago or something. And he talked about in the 80s, he was a KGB defector, Yuri Bezmov or Bezmov, something like that. Mm-hmm. And he laid out what is exactly happening right now.
Yes.
I mean, he said that right now there are KGB agents in your school system, and they are going to, over the next few generations, change people's way of thinking into our way of thinking. And he said by the end of it, Americans won't know what's true, what isn't. They won't be able to defend themselves. I feel that way right now. I feel like no matter what we say at this point, half the country has a view of reality where we are these horrible creature monsters, and I feel like there's no coming back from that.
Well, I really think that comes to what Jordan Peterson has been preaching for so long, and I really started to get into and research was this postmodernism, man. That's where all of this intersectionality stuff comes from. It comes out of postmodernism, and all this postmodernism crap that's been taught in the schools for now, which is coined now cultural Marxism, right? They've just replaced the economic component with the social component. But basically, that is exactly why we're seeing what we are. And it's because up is down and down is up, and white is black and black is white, and right is wrong and wrong is right. That is what that's been taught in the schools from the university level up, and even now down from the elementary level up, right? But that's what's being taught, and that's what's being bled into our politics, and so on and so forth. So that's what we're seeing happen. And I know Robert could also speak to a lot of this too. That's what we're seeing happening in our politics and this craziness where we're going, what is going on in this crazy world? It's because we're totally reprogramming people to have zero, absolute truth, zero truth in this world.
Absolutely.
Everything is completely upside down world. It's like freaking Stranger Things, the upside down world, right? Where it's literally just everything is crazy, and that's what they want. And I want to do on your last video. I took a note on that. The ideological subversion. I want to do a video on that.
We need to get into that more. I'd like to talk more about those topics. Go ahead, Robert.
Hey,
I think that's something that I'm very into as well. It's actually, you kind of got to give the devil his due a little, though, because it's actually a brilliant strategy.
It is.
Well, it's what we do. It's what we do.
Yeah, right. I mean, think about it this way. So, capitalism, the West basically beats Russia. Capitalism wins out. they can't compete militaristically anymore. And simultaneously, while this battle's going on at a geopolitical level, it's going on at an ideological level as well on campuses. So all throughout the 1960s, you have this huge debate on universities of which side is right. Is it the communist or is it the capitalist? And basically, Jordan Peterson talks about this a lot too. There's this guy, his name's Alexander Solzhenitsyn. He writes a book called The Gulag Archipelago, and it's like, I'm not being hyperbolic when I say this. He was thrown in basically a concentration camp, and he wrote much of the book on toilet paper that he had to then smuggle out.
Wow.
And once he, as someone who was hesitant to call out communism and was an intellectual, once his book comes out, that was the end of the debate. I mean, the horrors of what was going on are, I mean, it rivals the concentration camps of the Nazis. And this was occurring to their own people in the Soviet Union. And so once that came out, basically the communists lost on both, not just when Reagan won, or when we won while Reagan was in office, but much before that on universities. And so they decided to be subversive. They couldn't win on a fact-based level. So what they did was they changed the agenda. And it wasn't just the bourgeoisie versus the proletariat. Now it was, we'll take every single thing. We'll take everything about a person and label it into groups. And then we'll put those groups against each other. And one of the big wounds in the United States is obviously race. And so with slavery and things like that. And so it was easy for them to exploit this by saying, we'll play the long game. And they did. And you could see, Jonathan Haidt does great work on this. He has, he's a leftist, by the way, but it's called Heterodox Academy, where he points out just how radical since 1990 universities have become. We're seeing now basically 9 out of every 10 administrators and faculty in most universities in the United States call themselves left or far left, socialists and things like that. And when you have those people teaching the leaders of the future, you're only one. That's why we're seeing such a radical shift, because those generations that have been taught that, now they're coming into power. That's why AOC gets elected. That's why Bernie's message is so big. That's why America is evil. Brian the Betsy Ross flag. Colin Kaepernick's awesome. This country's always been racist and horrible. How did that happen in 10 years? Right. Well, it's because it's exponentially getting worse. Yeah. And it's our job to tell people, no, we can have disagreements. We can, but facts matter. Discussion and civility matter. Free speech matters. And that's why I think what we do, I'm not saying we're heroes or anything, but at least we're a step in the right direction. We'll be willing to talk to anyone,
Absolutely. And you know what you're talking about there, I think you're absolutely right. And it has been going on a long time. I mean, when I was in school, I could tell, when you'd learn about slavery and all these things, you would learn about it, and it was always, the white man did this, white man did that. But when I went and dug in further, I found, there's more context to it. It's more nuanced than just white man bad, right? And yet it's never taught that way. And I always thought, this is going to cause problems down the road, because you're basically telling these generations of these people that the white people around them are their enemies almost, and they were horrible to your ancestors. And it was obvious to me that this is going to lead somewhere bad. It's like, why not teach the full context of it? Teach that, hey, guess what? The Native Americans had slaves. Guess what? In South America, slavery was way, way worse than in America. They had way more slaves in South America. And before that, there was the Arab slave trade, and they traded Africans for hundreds of years before America even existed. So it's not, so cut and dry as like white people holding you down. But, and I wonder, is that on purpose? It seems to be.
And look where this
the Islamic world is still trading slaves too, guys. That's the
hey buddy, what's up?
I know Rational joined us. It was a little
on the disembodied head.
Oh my god! Nightmare fuel, everybody.
And I'm sure Rational. I'm sure this is a subject you wanted to talk about Tommy Robinson, like to bring back what you're saying, Dronetek, to Tommy Robinson. What happens when a society starts feeling so guilty that they made all these mistakes? Well, here's one thing that happens. Tens of thousands of little girls are raped, and everyone's afraid to say anything because they don't want to feel bad. They don't want to look racist. It has nothing to do with racism. It's, my God, raping girls is bad. When you bite your tongue because you feel guilty, that's what we're talking about, the destruction of your society.
Yeah. Hey,
that's why Tommy's been taken down. Unfortunately, I missed the start of this stream. It would have been great to be here, but the reality is that Tommy Robinson is guilty of doing nothing but exposing the hypocritical racism of the no longer legitimate government and the police in the United Kingdom. That's all that he has done.
Absolutely.
And he he's been put away yet again for exposing the despicable conduct of the so-called leaders of the United Kingdom who have decided that it is better to let thousands of little girls get raped millions of times or hundreds of thousands of times than it is to speak out against it and be accused of being a racist. And people in the United Kingdom, and I think I said this on the Discord earlier, if you talk to people in the United Kingdom who aren't members of the working class, who aren't being the victims of this stuff, what you see from these people is Pavlovian. You know, the Pavlovian thing, the bell rings, the dog drools because it's going to get fed. You say Tommy Robinson to these people, and what you get from them is an immediate Orwellian 2 minutes of hate as they start calling him a Nazi. And it doesn't matter that you try to explain to them, you're calling him a Nazi because the media called him a Nazi for speaking out against the rape gangs that they ignored for 20 years. Do you think they have a vested interest in demonising the guy? Yeah. And they can't see that because they are frothing at the mouth with hate and rage. Like, I've never seen anything like this. This is unbelievable to see.
Hang on, Rational, turn a light on.
Yep.
You're too dark. You're creeping us out. Turn a light on so at least have some light there on your mask.
Oh, that's a mask. I thought he was just really.
I know. Turn a light on, dude. You got a mask on. Why you?
We thought you were really high.
Bro, come on, man.
I've had a few surgeries. And,
you have, dude.
Plastic surgery, guys.
Nobody's gonna know who you are. Turn a flipping light on. Come on now.
But just to rip on that just for a second. Lest we all. And of course, if that crowd was here, one of the things they would say to us is, "Oh yeah, 4 white guys sitting around talking about this." Go back to May of 2018 and look what Majid Nawaz, who's a Muslim himself, a Muslim reformer. Look what he said about this, and it's exactly the most important take as far as I'm concerned. You feel bad for Tommy, we should stick up for him, all that's true. But Majid said, if you're someone that thinks Tommy broke the law, he got what's coming to him. Damn, I wish the UK law enforcement authorities would have taken pedophilia and mass rape as seriously as they take, going after someone for filming in front of a courthouse.
The UK
that's the outrageous thing to me.
I feel like
the UK is way further gone than us.
I feel like this is a political song or political debate around a campfire, and I'm the douchey dude with the guitar.
Go for it. Go for it.
No, I was just thinking, I don't know all the lyrics yet, but I want to go. She grew up in the city attic town, had a whole bunch of idiots. Never were around. Well, they grew up dumb, and they grew up something on them, something. That's a good song that I need to work on. Like last time with Mary Jane. Yeah, anyway. Okay.
You need to start doing parodies that are just like your creation totally.
I know, that way we don't have to worry about flipping,
you know what? You know what? That's the one good thing I would say about what's happening to us as far as the YouTube, not to jump another topic, but YouTube censorship. Like even me, if you go back a couple years, all I was doing was clips, and then it moved to like audio voiceovers and talking about clips, and now it's like full videos and live streams. So they're forcing us to improve our game, and I kind of like that, and I think that you could really do some cool shit, SJG.
Thank you.
You don't need those karaoke.
Put my mind to it. I think a fun stream too would be to where people give me one line like of a song, like we could just write random songs, right? Where they just give me, you find a topic, and then everybody on the stream just writes out one line, and I just sketch them down, and then as the stream goes on towards the end, I'll mute my mic, right, and I'll write up a song. So at the end of it, it's a total kind of ad-lib song. See, Islander likes it. Oh yeah, I don't know if that's the screen. If he was saying, "Oh yeah," about the mask, about the creepy Aussie mask, or if he was saying that about my song idea. But I think that would be a fun idea. I don't know.
Don't you think? I do think that's a great idea. But don't you guys, back to that topic we were on? Don't you think it's odd how it's like and look, I'm not a racial guy, and I don't like even talking about this stuff in these terms, but it's like I'm forced to because they've set these terms. And so it's odd to me that it's like all white countries that are being saddled with this guilt. And it's in Australia, it's in UK, it's in America. I mean, it's in all the white countries. What's up with that? And yet everybody else can live by these other standards, just not us.
Yeah. If I could just throw something in there, I keep on saying to people, look up the educational doctrine of a fellow by the name of Paulo Freire. Freire is his last name. He's really worth having a look into because about 30 years ago he came up with this concept of different discourses that operate within a society, and he said that one discourse has dominant power within a particular discourse, right? And so in the West, that was the discourse, that the way of viewing the world that white people have and that white men have. And he said that all power is by nature oppressive, right? That then entered our education system where people were being taught, rather than valuing the things that were valuable, like literacy and numeracy and stuff like that, which are alienating to people who are from non-English speaking backgrounds or who are poor, who have educational difficulties, etc., etc., etc. We need to value the things that they value. And so education became based not on things like fact and skill, but on emotion and on feelings and on critiquing the environment that you're living in. And it's underlooked at area of concern for why we've got to where we're at. I mean, I just happened to encounter this guy just incidentally when I was at uni, and so I did a little bit of a read up on him, and I thought this is really interesting. Right. And I opposed it then, but this is like about 30 years ago, and we saw that entering into the education system. And now you see that people are looking at Western power structures and all of it as being oppressive by nature, right? Which is, it's actually not, but that's what kids are being taught as they're going through our education system. So they're completely transforming our values. It's very Nietzschean if you look into it.
I'm not laughing at what you're saying right now. I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at what you're saying. I'm just saying watching you with that damn mask on is flipping awesome. And you have so many intelligent shit to say.
I know
you have that mask on and it's just like, it's like a mixture of the Purge. It's like a mixture of the Purge and I Know What You Did Last Summer or one of those movies. It's like, oh my God. But I love it. I love
hockey mask. That would have been brilliant.
It is awesome. I love it.
It's great, dude. It's great.
But right down on the chat there so I could read his book. Another thing, like Dronetek, I think you asked why is it only happen in kind of like the white countries, or to me it's more majority. It's more of like kind of the Western, the first world countries it's happening.
Right.
I think the big reason for it's this. The only countries this strategy works on are the freest countries. It wouldn't work in a country like Iran. You couldn't go in there because you don't have that freedom. You can't say it.
Right.
So only the countries that are the most free and have set as an ideal for themselves, we want to be as fair as possible and as diverse as possible, and we want to judge people based on the content of their character, not the color of their skin. That is the very country where this form of attack works.
Right. Like
because
they have to.
Any other country, they'll say, we don't give a shit. We're the best. We don't care what you say. But here we're like, you're right. We should look at historic abuses we've done and make sure we don't do them again.
Right.
That, which is a great trait. We should all do that. We should celebrate that.
We're empathetic.
But that's also what could be exploited.
Right, we're empathetic. Exactly, they're exploiting our good nature, our empathy, our good-heartedness. They're taking advantage of all that, and I think that's what's happening on our southern border as well. I mean, these people are just taking advantage of the fact that there's a lot of bleeding hearts in this country that, and I don't want to demonize these people. I know a lot of them just want a better life, but like we can't save the world, you know. I mean,
200 years from now, if we lose. If the United States falls, right, 200 years from now, some authoritative regime will say this. They'll tell their people, we know that you want free speech. We know that you think diversity might be a good idea. But remember the lesson of the United States of America. When you have too much freedom, you are taken over from within.
Right.
And thus we are in real life fighting a battle that's not just for what I think is the greatest country in the history of the world, the United States, but the greatest ideal, that we should be free, we should be open, we should be empathetic. That's the battle we're fighting, because if we lose, it will be the great lesson of the United States. No military power, no economic power could bring it down. Only their empathy, only their intellectualism was able to take them down.
Right.
Some people might call me the white devil.
Vigilance.
I'm the red devil. I'm not the white devil, okay? And I figure
oh man, I feel like I gotta get something now.
Some fun with this.
We're all gonna have to mask up now.
It would only be right if I masked up for a little bit too here. Because,
my face is scary enough. I don't need a mask.
I'm all inclusive.
What are you doing drinking, dude? It's not even 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning, man. What's going on?
I just want to say that I'm inclusive, and I don't want anybody to feel left out in this whole scenario. So, I'm right there with you, Rational, because I support Aussies. Even though they're not the brightest. Even though they're not the brightest.
You're mocking me for being facially challenged. I'm offended, man.
I'm just letting you know. I realize you guys, down under aren't the sharpest darts in the board, but I want to let you know that I support you anyways.
Cheers, mate. It's appreciated.
I love you.
Yeah, cheers, mate.
In a completely heterosexual,
That's what you keep telling
sort of
me.
way.
I'm not convinced.
Not that if you like homo stuff, it's bad. I mean, that's cool. That's totally cool, man. I live in Portland. Whatever, bro. You do you, I'll do me. As long as you don't make me do you. Not in a weird way.
Is that where Andy No got the snot belted out of him recently? Was that in Portland?
SJG needs to be out there getting video.
Yeah, getting punched, dude.
I know. I'm gonna, and I think I should wear this mask just for anonymity.
Well, I think you're one of them if you wear that. Like that'd be normal for
right.
the kind of people that people hang out with.
I should. No, honestly, all joking aside, I am going to do that. We're thinking about. I was talking to Dronetek about this, and he was mentioning this would be a good idea. He thought it'd be a great idea too. But to do a live stream, because I could take my phone, right, and I can go to I could go to some of these protests, and we could do our live stream, and it's kind of like the guy in the field, right? The reporter in the field, and it might be this video might be a little, shitty, but yeah, I think that would be a really cool shtick to do.
I do too. Seriously. That'd be awesome. And we need to get you up so you're
global news.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I mean, if we got something awesome on video, I mean, the potential of it to go viral and whatnot, that'd be pretty kick-ass. So I think it'd be great. Yeah.
Well, guys, I'm gonna start to wrap this up only because we've been going at it about an hour, and I can hear the kids upstairs. So my wife probably is gonna need my help here. But yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody for coming and helping me out with this as usual. Is there anything you guys wanted to just promote or?
I would like to, and we'll go through everybody, but I would like everybody on the stream to go check out my latest Frederico Wilson little parody. It's 40 seconds long. It's not the greatest. It's kind of hard to do. So, but it's funny. If you guys could share that out, and if you guys could share, I'm totally shameless plug here. Share my channel out. I want to try to get to 1,000 views before October, or 1,000 subs before October. Don't know if I can do it. If you guys haven't subbed to me already, please come and sub up. And I want to give a big, huge shout out to Dronetek for all the hard work he does. I'm so pleased, and I was so excited to hear he got remonetized again. And
that's awesome.
That's so rad. And I want to give a shout out to Robert. Please go check out Robert's channel. The dude is an intellectual giant, and we got to be like, Robert, breathe a second here. Let us talk for a minute. We got to breathe. But dude, the guy is so smart that
he's a machine.
Yeah. He is. He's a machine. And then also Rational Wrong Thing. The guy is, he was one of my first subs along with Gator. Shout out to Gator, the two. I only had two dudes in my stream the whole time. I'm a little drunk, so I'm sorry this is rambling. But
you're anyways,
good. But Gator and Rational were my two first subs that really just were there every damn stream I did. And both of them are awesome. I love them both. But I'll tell you what, Rational's got so many great things to say. Smart guy, even though he has to wear a mask. He's pretty awesome.
That's
so
the state of affairs that we're in.
Yeah. So anyways, I love all you guys.
If anybody does go to my site, can I just sorry to interrupt, but if anybody does go to my site, you'll see there's not much there. There's a couple of Tommy Robinson videos. YouTube have come after me pretty hard. I put up a Nirvana parody that was mocking AOC for saying that cows are going to kill the world, and they decided that was hateful, and they've just been going through my back catalogue of videos and taking me down for hate speech. So I've pretty much locked down everything except for a couple of things that I think are safe, but at the same time that I'm happy for them to try to take down. If they want to support child groomers on social media in a really overt way, well, okay, fine, there's nothing that we can do about that.
Yeah.
I'm not concerned necessarily about getting booted off social media, but I would prefer not to. So if you do go and have a look, there's not much there. I do put out other content. I do parodies and other things. Thanks for the shout out, SJG, and to Dronetek. Thanks for letting me on. I really do.
Always, man. Anytime. Yeah, I love to hear what you have to say. You and Robert, all three of you guys are just like fountains of knowledge, and just you guys are very interesting. And I feel very lucky that I've run into you people and that you want to hang out with me on this live stream. So you elevate it, you make it better, and I appreciate it.
No, and I want to say this too, and I know I've already spoke a lot, but I want to say this also, one more thing here. Is on Dronetek, he is the coolest dude. I mean, as big a channel as he has. He's the most down to earth dude, and I feel like it's such an honor to be able to be on here with you guys.
Yeah.
But I think we have all a really great chemistry, and I hope it takes off. And the whole song thing, I think that could be a fun little super chat thing. I need to put a little more thought into it and figure out how I'm going to do that. But I think
I agree.
We're gonna be developing this to where it becomes more of a show and not just a live stream chat. Like, it's gonna be a live stream chat, but we're gonna develop it to where it's gonna be a really fun thing to look forward to on Saturdays.
Right.
So spread the word, and also make sure notifications are on and your phone notifications are on.
Notifications.
You gotta do that. Check the notifications. YouTube likes to screw with people and undo them. So check your notifications. Okay, I'll quit talking now.
No, and make sure you're subscribed still. Good, Robert.
Yes. And I just thank you, everyone. Thanks again, Dronetek. And yeah, you can subscribe to all of us. I think that's great. I'm trying to use Twitter more, which it's @NorRobert. And obviously the YouTube channels I've been listening. But one of the things when I listen to people on YouTube, if I'm watching a Dronetek video or SJG video, I always, even before I did a YouTube channel, I wanted to think, well, what can I do to try to make things better? So if you're watching right now and you're Republican or Democrat, my advice right now, what you could do in the world is just try to see through the media garbage and look up for things for yourself. Don't feel that you have to be Republican or you have to be Democrat or whatever. And just try to have discussions with people, even people that disagree with you. Be civil, hear them out, and, just let people know we're all more the same than different. This insanity that we see being pushed by these gatekeepers, whether it be Robinson being locked up or Frederica Wilson saying that we need to lock up people that criticize them, that's garbage. Get out there and talk. Do it on YouTube. Do it in real life. And I think that together we can all make things better and stop these gatekeepers.
Absolutely. And that actually, real quick, anybody out there that knows a left-winger or somebody who might disagree with us but wants to have a discourse or something, let me know about it. Tell them about this channel. Get them in contact with me, because we want to bring people like that on and have them on here with us. Go ahead, Rachel.
Yeah, that would be great. No, I was just going to say, if you can get, I think I've said this before, but if you can get people on the left into a discussion with you, you can find that there are actually points where you agree. We talk about how the left call us all Nazis and this kind of stuff, and they do, but that's because we've been set up that way by a media that has a vested interest in dividing everybody. Right, so,
and that's not all the left, by the way. There are a lot, I'm not so sure in Australia, but I guarantee it's the same. There are a lot of people I know that are Democrats that would never say so publicly, but that are telling me, what is happening to this party? They still don't like Donald Trump, which is fine, but they don't feel like they have a voice representing them because, they're just people like, hey, I work on a farm, I'm pro-union. Why are the Democrats that are supposed to have my back out there talking about open borders and free money for illegals?
Yeah. That's what I mean. Most people are reasonably centrist. Yeah. Obviously, you have your extreme numpties at either end of the spectrum, and that's fine. But they seem to be the people that the media wants to highlight, and they want to make it seem as though the people who are the radicals are the people who are the mainstream, and that is not the case. So if you can get your average left-wing person to discuss things with you, and that can be difficult, but if you can get that discussion going, you can generally find that on economic things, a lot of us agree. Like, most of us are not really pro-global corporations sort of overriding the vested interest of the workers in particular countries. We don't really want to see major corporations exploiting people or buying up our politicians and things like that. So you can find those points of agreement, and from there you can begin to talk about other things. Because the problem is the left have been conditioned like Pavlov's dogs to see us as being morally wrong.
Yep.
Right? We see them as factually wrong. They see us as morally wrong. And we have to get past that. If we can show that morally we agree with them, or they agree with us on a lot of things, it helps to disarm that moral argument that they have against us, because it's based on ignorance.
Yep. Right. I agree. And I think that we may be moving to that point. It seems like more and more people are questioning the media, and that's a good thing, because I personally think, as you all know, that the media is the focal point of all this, division and everything. But
absolutely.
And so anyway, guys, let's end this. I appreciate everybody coming. Go check out my Teespring store. My wife just made this amazing "Shake the Dems" T-shirt, which is on my Teespring store. And I don't necessarily mean go out and milkshake people. It's just a joke, but anyway, I thank you all for coming. I will have all three of you back. We may be doing this more than just once a week, so look for that.
Milkshake those bastards.
Yeah. But anyway, thanks guys. Thanks Robert. Thanks SJG. Thanks Dronetek. Go subscribe to them. Support them, because you support these guys. You support me. You're supporting something. You know, you're supporting your warriors and fighting against what we're dealing with here. So thank you. I will see you all next time.
Catch you later, guys.
Later, guys.